So the brain, just like the spinal cord, is surrounded by meninges. So these are these layers of protective tissues that provide support, provide protection, and surround the brain. And they are the same three layers, the dura mater, the arachnoid mater, and the pia mater, that we saw in the spinal cord. There's only a few differences. In the brain, the dura mater actually has 2 layers instead of 1. So you can see here that it's got a periosteal layer, which is right up against the bone, and then a meningeal layer, which is next to the other meninges. The periosteal layer is the only layer that stays in the brain. You can see there's a separation between these here. And then the meningeal layer is the one that is continuous with the rest of the dura mater into the spinal cord. There's no epidural space here, so there's no space between the dura and the skull, like there is in the spinal cord between the dura and the vertebral column. We do have the subarachnoid space. So the arachnoid mater here is this transparent tissue with these little tendrils reaching down, and there is a space here. And then the pia mater is this very thin, delicate structure. And you can see that the pia mater follows these sulci all the way down and sticks really close to the brain tissue, whereas the arachnoid mater kind of skirts across some of those grooves. Inside the brain, there are liquid-filled chambers. So you can see these in blue inside of here. There are 4 chambers. There are 2 lateral ventricles. So you can see these here on the side. Here's one, and then here's another. So 1, 2 lateral ventricles. And then we have the 3rd ventricle, which is here, and the 4th ventricle, which is down here. So these are just enlarged spaces inside of the brain that hold the cerebrospinal fluid. These are going to be the starting point for the cerebrospinal fluid because this is going to be produced by something called the choroid plexus. This is something you need to know. This is important. So the cerebrospinal fluid is made at the choroid plexus. You're going to find one of these in here and then another one down here. So this is that sagittal view of the brain. And we don't see the big lateral ventricles in here. We really only see part of the lateral ventricle here. And then here you can see the 3rd ventricle and then the 4th ventricle. So in the 3rd ventricle here, we can see this choroid plexus. And it's named choroid because it looks very similar to a structure in embryology called the chorion. And then there's another plexus right here. And if you look at these arrows, you can see that the arrows are starting at the choroid plexus. These are where it is creating the cerebrospinal fluid. So the cerebrospinal fluid is this clear, transparent liquid, and it's going to be really important for the health of the brain and the spinal cord. It provides buoyancy. So the brain is actually fairly heavy. It weighs about 1,500 grams, so that's 1.5 kilograms. But when it's immersed in water, its effective weight is only about 50 grams. Think about if you could pick up a 200-pound person on land versus how much easier it would be to pick them up in a pool. So this keeps the brain from resting heavily on the cranium in the skull, because if the brain were just set on the skull, the pressure would kill that nervous tissue. This also provides protection, so against concussion. So if you get struck in the head, the cerebrospinal fluid helps to slow the motion of the brain so it doesn't just smack into the skull. Obviously, sometimes this does happen, and that's called a concussion when there's bruising in the brain. And then the cerebrospinal fluid also provides chemical stability. So this is going to provide the correct ions, the correct nutrients, only things that are going to be able to get through the blood-brain barrier into the fluid that bathes the outside of the brain. So it's made here. It can kind of follow this process. It's secreted by the choroid plexus, and then it's going to follow down into the ventricles. There are some apertures in the ventricles to allow it to leave the ventricle and circulate through the subarachnoid space. And then this ventricle, the fourth ventricle, is actually continuous with the central canal of the spinal cord. And so the same cerebrospinal fluid that starts in the brain actually goes all the way down to the end of the spinal cord and then back up. So it's all connected. And then eventually this fluid gets taken up into the arachnoid mata. The arachnoid villi are these little projections up into between the two dura mata layers. And so the arachnoid villi is where the cerebrospinal fluid is reabsorbed. So it starts in the choroid plexus. It's going to circulate surrounding the brain and all the way down through the central canal of the spinal cord to the bottom of the spinal cord, and then it gets reabsorbed at the arachnoid villi. So take a moment and explain the circulation of the cerebrospinal fluid.